by Merlin's beard. It's 479.
Morning. You might feel like this is a little bit of a reboot of yesterday, and in a lot of ways, it is. I didn't do my laundry yesterday, even though I prepared like my bed to be laundered. So now I'm actually gonna do my laundry. The duvet cover is still the worst part. Although I'm getting a lot better at it. I got it on really quickly last night. Still the worst part. I didn't grow up with a duvet. Okay, I had to learn all about this later. Sheets between countries are different too, but we're not here to talk about sheets today. We can talk about sheets some other day. Today is Ratterly Wednesday. Where is this at? We're gonna talk about doing art. And not doing art as a writer, but doing art as hiring somebody to do the art for you. Now, I've already explained to you guys what all this art is, so I'll look up that video and link to it in the eye right there. So if you want to click that to see that later, you can. It'll be there the whole video. Don't worry, no pressure to click it right now. These are all from my book, Into the Nansen. And by book, I mean books, and they're dusty. I gotta figure out a way to take better care of these. Anyways, these books right here are filled with art like that. Voila. Art. I've written a handful of books. I'm not going to claim that any of them are good because that's up for you to decide, but these are the covers that I ended up kind of creating for these guys. But I have a whole different experience depending on which book we're talking about. We also have Shadows of the High Ridge. Ooh, my original copy of White Shores, the titling, you can tell because of the titling, ugh, dusty. Tomb of the Reliquim and Steps of Krakador. These are no longer available. Although on Amazon, I think you can still get paperback versions. Ebooks aren't available anymore, and the paperbacks aren't being printed anymore because they need to be rewritten. I need to rewrite them. They're rough. They're the first books I ever wrote. The last one, of course, is Dark Horse, and this is mine. You can tell with the text being super small instead of big. This is my copy. Ugh, dust everywhere. Oh yeah, same with this. This is my my version of the cover, which is not the same as this version of the cover. And you can tell that there's a difference between the proof copies and the final version, but these were the ones that the printer sent to me to say, hey, is everything okay? And I'd look through and be like, no, there are a couple things that are wrong with this, and try to change it, and still there are a couple things that are wrong with it, but what can you do? Anyways, I've had my rounds with art. I've spent a lot on art over the last 7 years. I have worked with a handful of different artists, and so I think I'm relatively qualified to tell you how to partner with an artist. I've also written a piece for Jane Friedman. It's on her blog, and I'll link to that below, that goes over all of this in depth. But today, I just want to give you a couple of pointers if you're an author or anybody who wants to collaborate with other artists, in particular, anyone who wants to pay other artists to work with them, which is what you kind of have to do in a situation like this. I want to just help you out a wee bit. I also need to do my laundry, so we'll do that too.
I forgot yesterday's running clothes, I'm pretty sure. Dang it. The first thing you need to do is prepare. You know, obviously, preparation is the #1 key to all of this, but you need to know what it is you're going to be asking your artist to do. Are you asking for cover art? Are you asking for illustrations within the book? What do you need to communicate with those? What exactly is the scene? Who's in it? What are they wearing? You don't necessarily need to go super far into depth, and here's the thing as well. Don't go overboard. You want to try and be as specific as possible. And ultimately, the goal is to communicate an emotion, right? You're trying to communicate an emotional response through the art that you're producing. So being able to clearly communicate what it is that you're hoping to get out of it in that sense is wildly important. And you want to do all of this thought and preparation before you even approach an artist. The other thing you need to do is when you start researching artists, look for styles. Just because you love an artist doesn't mean they're going to be able to produce what it is you're looking for. Once you know what it is you're looking for, then you need to look for artists who can do similar things. If you're in love with one artist, but you want them to do something that's completely outside of their style, you're not gonna get something that you're gonna be really happy with. Even if they're really talented, and they probably can produce what it is you're looking for, it's not gonna be quite what it is you were looking for, and there's gonna be a level of disappointment. Probably on both sides, honestly, if they even take you on. The great example of that for me was Dark Horse. I saw a painting by a guy by the name of Russ something, I'll look it up. Saw this really, really cool painting and was like, that is exactly what I'm looking for my book. This kind of glitchy digital transformation of a person in black and white, really harsh, really dramatic. I just thought it was really punchy, and I actually reached out to him and he never got back to me. And that was the style that I wanted. So since I couldn't get him, I started looking around to see, well, who else can do a similar style? And wound up finding Marie Bergeron. Marie does great work. So look for this style. Similarly, sometimes it goes the other way. With Nimit Malavia, the artist that did all the artwork for Into the Nansen, he did the cover for my third book that you saw just a minute ago, The Steps of Krakador. And I never meant for him to do it. Not that I didn't want to work with him, but I was always saving him and his style for something specific. I always had kind of like this journal sketchbook style in my head, and I was like, I want to work with Nimit. I want to do something like this. I don't know what it is yet, but when I figure it out, we're gonna do it. And then when Into the Nansen came around, I called him like that day. As soon as the idea formulated and I worked my way through it a little bit, I was like, I have to call Nimit. I have to see if he'd do this with me. And it was the project that was perfect for him and me, and something that he'd been wanting to do anyways. He'd been wanting to do a journal type project for a while. Sometimes you realize, there was a fun shot you could have done, and you should have done, and you didn't do, and you want to redo it, but it's too late. I try not to redo too many shots because I really try to capture life as it's happening, as much as I'm already, stepping out of a regular routine to stop and put a camera down. So, authenticity doesn't always lead to the best result, but at least I guess it's real. Don't step in front of cars.
So, we can talk about the story about Into the Nansen later, where Nimit and I and Dennis all ended up coming together and making that madness. I think it'd be a good story. The point is, you need to know what you want, and then you need to do research on the artist to make sure the artist can match what you want. If you want photographed elements put together into a cover, then you shouldn't reach out to somebody who does pure illustration. And similarly, if you want like a really nice, gritty, stylized illustration, you shouldn't reach out to somebody who doesn't do that style of illustrating. It should come, that sounds obvious when I say it, but you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. Okay, thing number 2, it's time to actually reach out to your artist. As an update about the postcard situation, I realized Patreon doesn't organize them alphabetically. I'm not exactly sure how they organize them, but a lot of I got lost. I should have exported all the Patreon information as a Excel spreadsheet to start and then worked off that. I didn't. So I just organized everything alphabetically by first name, and then there are a few people who still I don't have addresses for, so I'm gonna have to hunt those down. But otherwise, I think I have everybody. I'm really close to having everybody. I need to get it organized so that I know for sure that I have everybody. Once I'm sure I have everybody and I know who I'm missing, I can get these sent off, finally. So, almost there. All right, I've got all of, I'm like 20 minutes late for my laundry. Look at this block of postcards, all right? This is all organized. I'm only missing like 12 addresses or something like that, which is a lot. Oh, maybe only 10, we'll see. I have 3 that I have the addresses for that I'm gonna fill out. The rest I'm gonna have to, I think some people did message me, so I've got probably 2 or 3 of my messages, and then the rest I'm gonna have to dig up either because I have them somewhere else or because I'm gonna have to email them one way or the other, but the postcards are on their way. Now, the second thing that we're gonna talk about with the artist stuff is actually reaching out to your artist. This is an important part of the whole process. When you reach out to an artist, you wanna do it right. But when you're doing laundry, you also don't wanna leave it sitting, unattended for long periods of time. So I need my clothes. Sorry, Grandma, I don't think I'm gonna have any leftovers. That's okay. You'll get a visit from me soon. Won't that be great, Grandma? Won't that be great? A visit from your grandson? Won't you love that? When contacting an artist, 2 rules. Be complete and be concise. Nobody's got time to read your entire book. If you're sending them a book and be like, read my book and do whatever it inspires you to do, you're actually being really unhelpful. Believe it or not, it's probably just a form of self-gratification to be like, I just want somebody to read it and create beautiful art from it. Someday, hopefully, you get fan art, which is really, really cool when that happens. But don't expect it. You're paying a professional, and they don't have time. Unless you want to pay them to read your book, which is a thing, and you can do that, don't expect them to read your book. Similarly, don't write a novel's worth of information in the first email. The first email you send should introduce yourself, should tell them why you're approaching them, what you like about their art, and why you think they'd be perfect for the following project. And then very concisely say, it's this book, it's this kind kind of book. The story is like this, and what I'm looking for in a cover is effectively this. It's also very appropriate to send them samples. Now, I would argue against sending samples of other books. You're like, I want it to be like this book or like this book. I would send them samples of their own artwork and say, these are the pieces of art that you've already created that inspired me to contact you, and I'd like something similar or something in this vein, and then explain what it is you're looking for. Ideally, I mean, you may not be looking for something unique. Maybe you are looking for something they've already created, but ideally, you should be looking for something unique and different, but using their work as an inspiration towards it. And then that way you're both speaking a common language right off the bat. Also to include within that first email are things like the timeline, like what you're looking for and hoping for as far as when to have it completed, and a budget. If you feel confident being upfront with it, just say, hey, this is what I've got to work with. Are you even able to do that? You can always ask them to quote you on the way back, but I think it's fair to say, hey, look, I've got $500, or hey, look, I have $1,000, and this is what I'm looking for. You also need to be specific about what kind of work you're expecting them to do. Are you expecting them to just do an illustration? Are you expecting them to do the full cover design, a full wrap of the whole book? Are you looking for the typography all the way around? All that kind of stuff. What kind of file format you want it back in, what resolution, all of that. If you're self-pubbing, you should know the resolution that your printer requires for the cover. And you should also know, if you know your page count, you should know exactly how thick the spine is supposed to be. And that information is really important to give to your illustrator. These are things, if you know how to use Photoshop and Illustrator yourself, you should be able to fix these later, or InDesign, as well as actually probably even more useful. You should be able to make corrections to this later, but just in case you don't know how to do that stuff, you're going to want to be able to get all those files from your artist, which goes back to the idea of preparation. Be prepared. Know exactly what it is you need from your artist. And speaking of needs, I need food. I need food, and I think I'm gonna go to the post office for these. But here's the thing about this: I got to break this up into countries first. We have people from all over the world: Vietnam, Canada, very exotic places. I also didn't realize just how many of my patrons' names started with A or with J. A definitely wins. J is a close second. We are going to go. I'm gonna get food. One of the other things that helps in communicating with your artist is if you can draw. So you're gonna go back and forth in different rounds of like, here's what I'm thinking, here's what they can do, and it's really, really exciting. It's really, really cool. But what will really help if you have a very clear image in your mind is to draw stuff out. Like draw the room that something's happening in, or the landscape that you're imagining. Just give it a rough sketch so they have an idea of what you're thinking, so they can at least incorporate that into what they're doing. And then let them do what they're going to do. Getting the more fun stamps, and they were nice enough to give me a sponge so that I don't have to lick all of them, but it's gonna take me a while. It's gonna take a while. Also 81 euros on stamps, holy crap. They're on their way. So that brings us to one of the really big points, which is communication with your artists. You need to be communicating very clearly, and not with silly, like half-baked terms like make it pop. You want to make sure that you're being very clear about spacing, lighting, emotion. Like you need to be as clear as you possibly can to explain what you like and don't like about whatever it is they're making for you, so they can get as close as possible. That's on you. And in the end, if you don't communicate clearly enough for them to follow through on it, it's on you. Brings us to trust. At some point in all this communication and with the results, you're just gonna have to trust your artist. Don't micromanage. As much as I'm saying to communicate and tell them as much as what you want, in the end, you have to give them everything you can and then let them run with it. The best results that I've ever gotten from art have been by letting it go. I've only really had one instance where I really was going for something specific that the artist didn't really want to do and it didn't work out. Otherwise, usually, like I said, I do the best I can in preparation to find an artist whose style matches what I'm thinking of, to give them all the information possible up front, and then just let it go. I do obviously give feedback as we go, especially for small details or things that are important to keep in a particular way,
but a lot of times leave the creative decisions to the artist involved. And I think that's really important for getting a really noteworthy end result, because if you stick your finger in it too much, there's a reason you're paying the artist to make it, right? You're not an artist yourself. So let them do their job. And that's the trust part of the communication piece. Now for the part that I'm sure your artist will love best. Pay your artist well. There's a whole spectrum of how much you should be paying an artist, and obviously their rates are going to differ based on a number of things, from how much work actually goes into the art they're producing to the level at which they're operating. Some are like the guy who did my second book. I can't afford anymore. He's too big, huge, and within his realm, and he doesn't have time for me. Whereas there are others that you can work with that are quite reasonable, are still amazing and very talented, and I don't think that cost should ever be equated with value. Sometimes some of the best artists around are the ones that are the most reasonably priced. So what you need to do is make sure, like I said earlier, to pitch your budget in there somewhere. Say, hey, this is what I've got to spend. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, of course, you can ask them what their prices are, and then respect that. It's kind of like haggling with your tattoo artist. You really don't want to do it. Now, there are times where you can work out a deal with them, like if there's lots of work to be done. Whoa, they're putting up all the, oh no. I came here specifically for this place, and now I can't go in. Well, at least they're putting up their terrace. Crap. Stupid selfie cam came up. But the benefit is I can't see what I'm showing you, but there's a sign there. They're still open, you just have to go in the other way. Ooh, selfie cam. See, this is why I don't use a selfie cam. Not only is it crappier quality, but then I end up looking at the phone instead of the camera and just like playing with myself here. This is... Woo! Now, what I was trying to say before I got distracted by, the terrace and having to enter through the other side of the building, which is new, was that, yeah, you just want to make sure that you pay your artist well, because remember that you're building a reputation for yourself and a relationship with that artist. You might want to work with them again in the future, so be generous with that, as well as your credits. Make sure to give them credit. Give credit where credit is due. Like on my website, I actually have a page dedicated to the artists and editors and everybody that work on my books. And so I think it's really, really valuable if you make sure to give people, to pump people everywhere you can, to boost them, to do what you can, to encourage them and help them grow their social media, their presence, their portfolio. Share them with the world. Don't hog them. You want to share them as best you can. They'll appreciate it, and they'll want to work with you all the more for it. So annoying. They are still closed at 6 o'clock. Which it's not even 6. Wait, what time is it right now? We'll try Pan Am, and instead of having a coffee, we'll have a beer while we work, hopefully. I think they allow you to work in here. We'll find out. So yeah, be prepared, do your research. Be a clear communicator, communicate a lot, trust, pay, and give credit where credit is due. I think those are all good rules of thumb.